I want to get into some of the basics around positive thinking, negative thinking, and this whole, conceptual framework. All right, there's a key thing that you need to really understand. Positive thinking, positive psychology, affirmations, all these key terms that are going around, they really all underlie under a basic, simple premise. Now, if you're not familiar with my story is, at an early age, I was injured. I was an ambitious athletic star, and well, I thought so in my mind. But I wanted to become the next Michael Jordan. I wanted to go to the NFL, something athletic. But all that was taken away from me. I was injured twice, and now I have, knee injuries, shoulder injuries. And when these things happened to me, and the first day that the doctor said, you're probably not going to be able to play competitive sports anymore, it crushed me. It really did. It's like having the one thing that you love ripped right away from you. What do you do with that? What can you do with that? There's not much you can do. So I had to find, what am I going to do? I started to think about my life and say, all right, what am I supposed to do now? What's in my story? What is my purpose in being if I'm not supposed to be playing sports? Where should I be going? All these questions started to come to mind, and I went through a reflective process. And in that time, what I learned is that I really had to kind of retune myself. And that started from tuning in to who I was at the core. It wasn't about being an athletic person. The core of me was something else, and I found my purpose, which is sharing wisdom with the rest of the world. And then once I found that core, I could start to tune up my skills. So I start, doing more presentations, start going out, introducing things to people, starting to get into personal coaching. All that stuff is out there. So I got into that. And then I had to tune out a lot of distractions. And part of that means just putting stuff out there and then letting people get used to it, comment on it, not worry about, who's going to like it, who's not going to like it. I have something to offer. I know that, and I'm just putting it out there for the world to grasp. The core principle of positive thinking is that it's really nothing more than being able to define and identify the obstacles that are in your way, and then strategizing and using techniques to eliminate them. Sounds simple, right? Now the hard part is, how do you really get over these obstacles? And so I want to introduce to you what are some of the common obstacles and what are some of the common solutions you'll find when you look into the positive thinking world. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to help you out by telling you about 5 different possible obstacles that can get in the way of your positive thinking. First one is about blame and criticism. People are always blaming their circumstances. Those that get on in this world are the ones that go out and find the circumstances that they want, and if they can't find them, they make them. George Bernard Shaw said that. And so once we can get past a place where we're constantly blaming our circumstances or criticizing other people, then we can get into a state of actually being in tune with our purpose, aligned with where we're supposed to be going. The second one is all about conformity. So holding yourself and fitting in with the common norms can be a block to your positive thinking. Now you might say, oh, that helps me harmonize with other people around me. But you know what? It's not you. It's other people. There's a difference between being a resonance that's in harmony. So if you think about notes, a harmony is a collection of notes that work together to create a unified, good sound. And so you need to find out what your tune is first, and then you can start to find those that harmonize with you. Because if you just try to harmonize with somebody who's terrible, then you might not make it to the next phase, which is trying to get to the part where you can actually start to tune out and become a resonance for others. The third thing is about competition. All right. So trying to compare ourselves with other people, saying so-and-so got this salary, so-and-so is going up this way or doing those things, can really become an obstacle to negative thinking. Now, the fourth one is about dealing with disappointment. And if you remember from my story, having an injury that really just cut out my dream, my initial dream, is a case of disappointment. And disappointment is one of the deepest and hardest parts of negative thinking to get around. It's one of those hard obstacles to beat, but it is doable. And the last one is all about perfectionism. Trying to make things perfect or more perfect than they already are is a key ingredient for negative thoughts. Because life is not about perfect. Life is about experience. Life is about contribution, sharing, love. So getting over perfectionism is a key ingredient. And I've had many clients in the past that have had tendencies of wanting to be perfect. And that was holding them back from just kind of ending something, getting it done, and then moving on to something of more value. Now, there are 4 things that you can start to think about doing and start to plan strategies and techniques for. And a lot of this is explained in the book, and you can find in the resources that I point to are based on these 4 things. The first one is all about, starting to master self-talk. All right, this is something that's used in sports psychology, mental performance training, and anything where people have to do something at a high quality, a high degree of intensity. All right, so self-talk is a very key ingredient. It's not about being crazy and talking to yourself, but it's about tapping in to that inner warrior, that inner champion inside, and replicating what that sounds like in terms of words. Now, one of the techniques is to diffuse negative experiences. And there's a lot of tips and techniques about ways to talk yourself and rationalize and use logic and reason to get yourself through a negative experience. Usually what happens is whenever we have a negative experience, there is something behind that. And what I mean behind that is that there's a trigger point which has kickstarted a story of some kind. And so asking the right questions to say, what story am I telling myself right now about this situation? And I'll give you an example. So let's say I'm in the grocery store and somebody kind of cuts me off in line. And that means I start to tell myself the story like, how could this person just directly, deliberately cut in front of me? What I'm not thinking about is, did that person ever actually see me at all? Maybe they didn't even see me or notice me, and they just kind of went into the line thinking that was the natural ending, and that could be the case. But immediately I go into my story from my perspective, and I start to say that, this person was deliberately trying to cut in front of me, and they must have seen me because I'm here, right? That is a way to diffuse that, is to really question assumptions, is to look at, what is really true here? What am I assuming about being here? And is there another way to look at it from a different perspective? Another technique for getting past negative thoughts or negative energy is to actually just finish what you start. So whenever you have a big task, and if it's a longer term project, what you want to do is find the smallest measure of achievement that you can reach within the short amount of time. And for some people, their attention span can be shorter or longer, so you have to kind of figure out, what is going to be a good amount of time for me to achieve something, and start to make an objective that actually identifies the success criteria or achievement within that time frame, so that you can have a sense of accomplishment. And when we have a sense of accomplishment, we then start to have more positive thoughts. And the more often that we can have experiences of having that sense of accomplishment, the more momentum that we can build. So the smaller chunks that you can make something, the more likely that you will build up momentum in order to keep moving forward. Another key point of finishing what you start is so that you can reflect, so that you can take a moment, stop, pause, and think about what just happened here. And ask yourself 2 questions. What went well? And if I were to do it again, what would I have changed? By asking those two questions, you've completed a cycle from what you've actually done. And, it's just like in sports where you have to run through the tapes after a game to see, what was I doing well in that game? What did I do? What could I have done a little bit better? Where did I mess up or not do something as good as before? And the last technique that you can work on developing is just straight up willpower. And willpower comes from hearing, seeing, and doing certain things, exuding confidence. It's a combination of using affirmation and supporting that with resources and things around you that build up your motivation, your inspiration for being in a positive state of vibration. So think about the music that you're listening to. Think about the people that you are connecting with. Think about the downtime that you have. What is it that you're doing? Are these things in a positive vibration? Are they exuding a positive energy, or are they going toward a negative energy? Now, the question becomes, could there be a neutral energy? And I call that zoning out, maybe. But even when we're zoning out, are we really moving anyway? I don't know. That's up for you to decide. Awesome. If you've made it this far, that means you've gone through all the materials that I've talked about. And hopefully you're going to click that button over there and go get this special offer before somebody else does. I really, really hope you get into it. And I wish you all the best. Take note of those 4 things that I talked about to overcome negative thinking, and be aware of those obstacles that we talked about before. So this is Paris Law signing off, and I wish you always be learning, always be tuning, and then be tuning out to others to resonate.